All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Clyde Gabel, and I'm an organic grower. I grow fruits and vegetables, and I sell them at the Payson Farmers Market. That's my one outlet right now. And I've been doing that for 12 years. And this all started in 2010. I was living in Geisela. It's about 100 miles north of here, just south of Payson, Arizona. And my mother had 3 great apricot trees. It was a bumper crop of apricots, and so I called the Payson Farmers Market, and I said, I've got all these great apricots, I'd like to bring them up and see if I can sell them. So that's what we did. We went up every summer for, well, like I said, it started 12 years ago. And I grow organically. Everything I grow is organic, clean food. The people, I've got pretty much, the market is almost my own. There's only a couple other people that are in competition with me at that market. So I did that for a few years, and Mom and I made like $2,500 a month. It was just sort of a hobby type thing, just something to do during the summer, and do something with my mother. So then in 2015, my sister saw an ad for this class, Beginning Ranchers and Farmers, and I thought, well, that's right up my alley, so I enrolled in that, and it was right here in this room, first class, and had a lot of fun, a lot of great information, met a lot of people involved in agriculture, all different aspects of agriculture. So I found out that first class, if I gave it a little effort, took some action, wrote a business plan, and started keeping records, I could actually turn it into a small business and actually make some money. Before it was just sort of something to do during the summer. So that was really this class was the emphasis. It energized me and stimulated me to actually go out and do something and make this into a business. So, fast forward to this year, my projected income is going to be $60,000. So I went from $2,500 a month, up 5 or 6 years ago. This year I'm going to at least do $60,000. And part of that is because I just got this little tractor. Now I've got a little bit of land up there, but I don't have a farm. I have 4 different locations where I have gardens. It all totals up to be about an acre and a half of garden space. The rest of it, I've got a couple acres that are in orchards that I take care of for other people up there who are they're older, and I take care of their trees for them, help them with whatever they need, and then they share their fruit with me, and I take it to the market and split the money with them. So it's all pretty. Started with a shoestring budget, I haven't borrowed any money. So it's been pretty lucrative, and this class was the one that got me going. Now, the 4 gardens I have, 3 of them are on drip irrigation systems, and the 4th one is on flood irrigation. I get my water from Tono Creek, and I've got historic water rights to that water that go back to the late 1880s. So the ranchers that originally started ranching in that valley had ridden over to Prescott, which was the territorial capital at that time, and recorded their water rights. So that's all prior to Salt River Project. So we have water coming right out of the creek. There's an irrigation system that runs through the valley, and I pay $25 a year to use that water. So that's a huge advantage. The other gardens are all on well, they're all on drip systems. So 2 of them on solar pumps with tanks, so my water is pretty well secured, and that's a big advantage. The other advantage I have is that I'm 16 miles south of Payson, but Payson is an elevation of 5,000 feet, so their climate is completely different than mine, I'm south of there, but I'm only 2,800 feet, so it's like half of that. So my climate is great all spring and summer and into the fall for growing fruits and vegetables. So that's my journey, and I'm still on. My projection is in the next couple of years I'll probably get to $100,000 in gross income, and that's probably where I'll end it, because I don't want to grow any bigger than that. It's just labor's too hard to come by. I use a lot of volunteer people, but it's just too costly, and it would take me out of the organic part of growing and sort of moving more into the industrial part, and I don't want to go into that. So anyway, that's my story, and these are a couple of pictures of me. That's me on the left. We had Lene. I got a grant through Lene to put in a fruit garden in my house, and we had to pull that tree out. It was dead, a giant mulberry tree, and that's me sitting on the stump of it. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have fun.
Any questions for Clyde?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have any agriculture background before you started this?
Yeah, my grandparents, they all came from Iowa. They came from England originally,
Right.
and then they were in Iowa. My grandparents were in Iowa, and they were farming up until the early 1950s. And that's when they sold the farm and moved to Arizona. So my whole background in my family is basically organic agriculture. Back then, we didn't really use the term, or they didn't use the term organic, because everything was organic. I mean, that's how you lived. You lived on the farm and you raised animals and grew food, and the Industrial Revolution sort of hadn't started yet with chemicals and that type of thing. So I've always been we've always had gardens and fruit trees, that type of thing.
What do you think the learning curve would be like for somebody who has much less experience than yourself?
Oh, I don't know. This class is great. I mean, the thing about this class, it's more like an agriculture club to me. You meet all these people, but people have different interests. Some people raise animals. It would be great if I could introduce chickens and pigs and that type of thing into my operation, but I'm really not that big. But I would say take these classes. I took the Master Gardener class through the University of Arizona. Just seek out more of this type of activity. So I don't know how long it would take. It just depends. Anybody else? Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about how you fertilize your crops?
Manure.
Like,
Basically, yeah, I have a great access to a great amount of horse manure, but horse manure is not my favorite thing because it's full of seeds usually. So I don't want to introduce that into my garden, so I usually let that sit for at least a year. But mainly I use just an organic fertilizer. It's usually like a 473. It's low in the elements that are in it, all organic. I use that when it depends on the crop too. I've got 2,000 onions in the ground and 500 garlic and probably about 1,000 leeks. And I put those in the beginning of December, and I fertilized all that with just organic fertilizer. And I use compost. I mix up my own soils just in the beds that I'm going to plant in. So it's all pretty healthy stuff. But manure is what I use mainly, and just the compost that I make myself, using the manure and other carbon sources that I'm able to just gather. Yes?
How did you manage to come across your water rights?
The water rights?
Yeah.
Well, they subdivided one of those ranches. There was 5 ranches in Geisela years and years ago. And they subdivided one of those ranches in 1970. My parents bought 2 acres on one of those ranches. And each one of those ranches had water rights. And each day one ranch had water coming out of the creek. It was their day. So each ranch had 1 day of water. So that subdivision had 1 day of water. And they bought the property, and the water rights came with the land. In Arizona, water rights go with the land. So once they bought the land, the ditches were already there, and they had rights to it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
How much do you have into your equipment? Your tractor?
Well, luckily, my cousins in Iowa collect these little tractors. Basically a riding lawnmower on steroids. It has a rototiller on the back, blade on the front. It's got a mower deck and an aerator. But that cost me $200. But it's probably worth $3,000 to $4,000 with all the equipment. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next slide. Yeah, I think one thing, a lesson is that it's pretty hard to do everything by hand. I mean, if you can get mechanization, that, or when it comes to moving dirt, boy, you think you're going to do a lot by hand, but boy, you can do so much more with even just a little piece of equipment like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Is Lorraine here yet?
Not here.
Okay. Henry, do you want to talk a little bit about your enterprise, Henry?
Yeah, I guess. Hello? Okay, my name is Henry Harris. I'm a disabled vet from back east. And coming out here is totally different from back east. We didn't have to look for water, we didn't have to worry about the ground being moist, all of that. Out here, my strength back there is my weakness out here. Put it in the ground, it'll grow. Out here, no, not so much. But I did learn from this class, and a whole lot more was friends and water is gold out here. And if you don't know something, this class, you can talk to people, they'll tell you different things, and most of them know something that you don't. And out here, everybody, I try to talk to everybody because I don't know, never lived in the desert. And I started, I don't know, I think it was maybe about what, 3 or 4 of these classes or more. And after talking to her, I was blessed to have, well, we grew that at the 3F farm. And the trail, that's my property in Elfrida, 20 acres. And I was blessed with X large and Lene with that. And it's just, I'm learning out here because there's no water down there, and they're gonna cost about $20,000 to $30,000 to put a well, because they gotta go down at least over 1,100 feet for you to get a permit. So, but my neighbors, they're well drillers. They told me just come over there and get water, get a tank, fill it up. And that's what I'm doing. I just finished putting up the fence for the livestock, and I still got, I don't know, a lot more to do. I'm putting up the fence, probably starting next week for the garden, and I'm learning, and that's basically it. Now, the food that I will grow, I'm not rich, but I figure there's a whole lot more people out here need it more than I do. Like, I told them that I was just going to donate it to the company, retirement home, senior, everybody knows. The food that I go the food that I go out there, I don't want it. I'm just want to donate because times are hard, and the elderly is even harder. So my food, I may have cows and goats, twisted cedar boar goats. I got to go to Texas and pick them up, and I'm gonna have a cookout, hopefully by April before it get too hot. So I already got a friend donating a cow that I met down there to help put up the fence. And I'm gonna buy 2 hogs from him. Everybody is invited. You can see it's just open land. I just got that cleared up. We're gonna clear out some more before that. And hopefully, the guy that I met down there that did the fence, we thinking about doing a country concert and a fundraiser for 501c3. Take the money, build buildings for at-risk kids and vets that don't have a place to go. Try to build a community center on that property. So, and I'm gonna leave it to the property. When I'm gone, the property will be there for as an endowment to the county. I ain't gonna need it no more. So that's what I'm doing. But I'm a horse breeder by trade. I breed quarter horses. I'm in the Appaloosas now, I'm in the Dutch harness horses and trees. So that's my thing now. Besides doing that. That's it.
Where are you going back in?
Tennessee and Mississippi.
Okay, because we were in South Carolina and had the same problem. It was, the hard part was getting things to stop from.
Yeah.
A lot of water.
Yeah, that's how it is, because the water, the dirt back there, we call it mud. And it will sink the tractor, and it will stop a lot of other things, but it will hold more and slowly rip into the ground. The ground is always moist, so you can grow.
Any more questions for Henry? If not, Gina,
Ma'am.
you want to go ahead?
I'm good.
We don't have a slide here for Gina, but she's done an awful lot, so she's going to describe this to us.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I'm Gina Enos. I'm from the Gila River Indian community. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I've been around farming all my life, and my father was the first community Gila River community farms manager, and in 1951-52, the Bureau of Indian Affairs finally gave back some land, agricultural land, about 10,000 acres that we didn't, or if you know our history, we settled in this area, our ancestors, the Hulagun people, and the water was taken from above, and then our community dried up, so we couldn't farm anymore our vegetables or wheat and so forth. So that's, in short, our history. And so the tribe had been asking for, let us farm, we want to go back to farming. So in 51-52, they gave us about 10,000 acres. So my father was at the University of Arizona, and the council had asked him to come back and be the farm manager. So that was the beginning for our community farms. So he was out there for about 20 years, and then there's a gentleman by the name of Jack Palmer that took over for another 30 years that made our farms very successful. And along that time, my father farmed our own personal, our acreage. And in the community, we have tribal land and we have allotted land. So we have a lot of allotted land in our family. And being younger, I didn't want to learn. We had to when we were kids, be on the farm, irrigate dirt ditches, and mostly cotton was farmed. Mostly it was cotton and alfalfa. But and then as I got older, and got wiser, and just wanted to learn how to farm. So currently, I farm 16 acres of Bermuda grass, and then I acquire our allotted lands. We go through the federal program, the EQIP program. I forgot what it's. Russ, what's it? That helps us in the community. So we have this large water settlement. Some of you may know, in 2004, where we tried one of the largest water settlement. We have more water than we can use. And this EQIP program helps farmers for young farmers getting started. So we're in that process educating younger people to get encouraged, small-time farming, and I've been trying matches. So they put in our first crop for us. They raised their level, our land for us. They used to put fencing in for us. They took that out. But the whole key is we start out with dirt ditches, and then in a few years they put in our concrete line ditches, so it makes it a lot easier. So my Bermuda grass I open with ports, and then my new land I have to do about 32 acres. I have to farm by by hoses and siphons. So, on that scale, I do a larger farming, and I got that down. Ramona Farms, they cut and they tillage my fields for me, so that's perfect. I don't have to work with equipment, and I just pay for it. They just send me a bill, and I pay for it, and I can sustain my crop, the Bermuda grass, and now this new land, which is near Coolidge and Blackwater area. So I can do that on that larger scale, but I can't have a garden. I just couldn't grow anything, vegetables, and I think I only had 4 squash the year before. So I saw these classes and I started coming to them, I think about 2 years, and just like the other people mentioned, the material is helpful, the presenters, the tours, it's really helpful, the expertise, because you need all that, and you need to pick from, what's going to work for you. I kind of specialize more because I was always want to give back to the community, and what I started out with gardens. They're in not tubs, but fiberglass containers, so you can almost put 1 or 2 plants in there because of the critters. And then some of my vegetables are on the ground, and so I'm trying to work with that. But the soil is the key, so I learned a lot about soil, the handouts, and then like the gentleman said before, making the compost. I've learned how to do that. We have a program on the reservation from our hospital that help us, everybody get started if you're interested. But the whole key is you have to have the desire, to want to do it, because it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and then you just have to, the manure, I have horses and I have calves from on and off, because I have a granddaughter that rows, but so we use that to make compost, and we clean out our pans and we take it to my field, and another program comes and makes compost, and they give that out to the people in the community that want to start out, because fertilizer is kind of expensive to buy by the bag, so that's how we do that. And then we have, they're building canals in our community as part of our water settlement, concrete lining our ditches throughout our whole community. So they were knocking down a lot of the mesquite trees and along the canal. And so they made chips out of them with mesquite chips. So then we use that as well as putting them around in the trees, or putting them part of a little bit of your soil. And so we do that as well. So I guess the classes here, like I said, was the tours are helpful. The field crop record keeping that Russ mentioned, has been really helpful for the farming aspect and recording. I do everything by manual, so my goal this year is to kind of get more automated and use QuickBooks and so forth for my record keeping. And I guess at the end, what I want to do now is specialize more. I want to, now that I know my soil a little better, we have a lot of land in the community. We don't pay for water when we farm. As farmers or growers, we're allowed 5 acre-feet, and we have to budget that throughout the year. And so that was really hard for some older farmers, because they grew whatever they wanted and the water was unlimited. But now we have different pools of water. We have groundwater. We're going more into wells, so that we don't have to purchase that much capped water and so forth. But so I want to specialize my farming into. I have part of my acreage. I have 6 acres, so I want to learn. If you know anybody, I want to try and put watermelon in there. find somebody to show me how to grow watermelon, you know, just cantaloupes. A meal out of it after you cook it, grow it, dry it, you know, roast it, dry it, and then you grind it, and then you make it comes out kind of like a coarse oatmeal, not oatmeal, I don't know, coarse. You can boil it anyway. You boil it, make it into stew. You add meat, and you add wheat. So we call it parsha. That's an Indian meal our ancestors, our old people eat, you know, so I wanted to go back to that. And then the community is changing, and the young people are starting to go back to our tradition, and we kind of migrated from the Mexico area, and then we settled here along the Gila River, and another group went up by Scottsdale, so that's why that's the Scottsdale, Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian. We have 2 tribes that live in our community. Around 91st Avenue and Baseline, we have the Maricopa Indians, and then we have the Gila River Pima Indians. But shells are in the ocean, is our, you know, part of our culture. So they started making shells, gourd necklaces that we give out at various events. So I would just like to do that. I think they get them from Words Farms, and then people just take the time and they make them, and they're just a nice little gift to give out. So that's what I want to do is not only for my family, but just not so much to make money, you know, I mean, that's smart, I mean, giving back to the community, teaching the young people how to grow these things and have an appreciation for the culture. And then the other thing I wanted to do was this work to grow is Devil's Claw. And Devil's Claw is the black part of this basket that they use. And it's, I don't know, it has a little thing anyway, but basket makers. And the longer the Devil's Claw is, it's easier to do your coiling in it. So you have to soak it, you have to split it, and they use this as a fine wood strip that you use to make the design on here. And then this is a Donautum or Teo Donautum basket. So they use with yucca. So this is the white part is yucca, and inside the basket is bear grass. That's the Donautum. But the Gila River Pimas, we use the Devil's Claw, but we use cattail inside the coils, and then we use willow. So our baskets are a little bit more finer than, this is fine too, this is good, but Donautum use yucca. So I want to grow the Devil's Claw, and it's a specialty, and you give them away to the basket makers because you bundle them up, you come into a big bundle, and you can share it with your basket makers. And then just to go along with the vegetable gardens and probably team up with the tribe, somebody in the tribe to have small gardens, and then give that to the dialysis patients we have in our community, our elders, and we have a youth home there in the community for the kids to learn how to grow gardens. They get started, but it kind of fell to the wayside. So those are kind of my short-term goals. And I don't know what else to say, but that's, you know, I really need like equipment, so that's another long-term project is to get equipment like a retriever for my hay, because trying to get the hay from Blackwater to Saskatoon where I live, so that's a challenge for me. Probably I use tractor just to disc my fields, because right now I just pay people to pay because of harvest. I like to do that on my own sometimes, you know, cut the expense out of that. So that's all I have.
Any questions? So Renee's going to talk a little bit, Lorraine's not here, but I think Renee's going to talk a little bit about her operations. And
I didn't eat my Wheaties, I'm 5 foot tall. Not to make it work. Can you hear me? I'm going to speak very quickly on behalf of Lorraine Morrow because our other dynamic speaker, Shawneen, is here. I cannot wait to hear her talk. Lorraine couldn't make it today, but her sort of manager for the ranch, can you raise your hand, stand up, Hillary McCaleb, is here from the group called Families United. And there's a 3.5-acre parcel. Lorraine rescues homeless teenage girls off the street. And she has 7 in her own house right now, and she bought a 3.5-acre parcel. And they're going to do equine therapy. And Joanne in the audience today, who you'll hear from later, is in that field as well. And she's already been in touch with Hillary and Lorraine to do this. But in the meantime, our foundation got a grant that was CDBG money from Pinell County government to do a therapy garden. And when these girls come, they need therapy. I mean, they're off their iPads and stuff, and they really need to relax. So this is the garden that was built just last week. And I have to absolutely celebrate Ruben and Doris. Would you raise your hands, please? They built that garden. They were phenomenal. And Hillary helped a lot, and it should be an opportunity for these teenage girls to learn how to have maybe a produce market stand out front and to how to calculate the profit statements, and it's a real educational training garden. But the main thing we've learned is that all gardening is therapeutic, but this is PTSD. And the therapy gardens that we've done in the last 6 years are the shining stars of our operation. So, Hillary, would you want to tell us what the experience was like?
I was tired. It was a great learning experience. I've done a little bit of small gardening on my own. Never anything as big and never anything that involved so many materials. These folks are wonderful. They have a wealth of information. I'm looking forward to picking their brain and learning so much from them. We do have plans to put in some additional seating areas into the garden and kind of make it like a little small sanctuary so when the girls are out there working. It's definitely a safe place. And we have a great support team to help us with those in the therapeutic field.
And Hillary, tell them what you did before that you were a big ranch master.
I was at a place called Robinson Ranch in Phoenix, and they did therapeutic writing there. They still do. They also teach several horsemanship classes. The therapeutic writing can be for anyone that has any type of challenge. It doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to be mental. It could be emotional. It could just be stress. We had a couple moms, and we'll extend it at this range also, but we had a couple moms that just needed somewhere, they just needed that time to get away and just kind of relax. We don't really instruct or give them a curriculum. We just kind of let them be. We listen and provide the facility and the animals really connect with.
There's 2 other people I want to thank, and then I'm going to hush. The Just Serve organization, Kurt Nelson, helped find a lot of the LDS missionaries that came out and helped build the trench. We had to trench into the main water line to get a tap. It was amazing what Ruben did with laying that. And Trevor, I want you to raise your hand. He is an LDS missionary in service with the Future Forward Foundation, and he built that garden too. But I cannot thank the LDS Church enough for all the labor they put into building that garden. By the way, our Future Forward Foundation is called 3F for short, so that might make more sense when you hear us throwing around the term 3F. Thank you so much.